Do you want to know who will win the 2024 presidential election? Does God care if President Trump or Vice President Harris wins? Who should you vote for and why? I'm going to cover all those topics and much more. Let's go. Hi, my name is John Humanic. Welcome to my channel. I'm so excited that you're here. Today is election day in the United States. The big topic on everyone's mind is who's going to win this presidential election. Will God reveal who really wins? And if so, why is he allowing he or she to be the next president of the United States? Stick around for this whole video because this is going to be incredible. What God will reveal will totally blow your mind. The 2024 election has been hotly debated for the past few years, and now we're all coming to the end of this journey. I'm going to reveal God's thoughts on this topic and what you need to hear from the throne of Jesus. With all prophecy, you need to make sure you test the spirit behind it, because some things are meant for you to be received in this season, and other aspects may be for a future season, and some might be not for you at all. Two big questions you should be looking for is, does God care if President Trump gets reelected in the office? Or does God care if Vice President Harris gets elected as President of the United States? She would be the first female president and the second African-American elected to the highest office in the land. This is a really important question that many people are wondering. Let's dive right into it and hear what God has to say on the matter. You've probably seen a lot of prophets and other prophetic voices proclaiming what's God's will and plans on this topic. I'm sure you've seen many people talk about how President Trump is ordained to be the next president because he survived 3 known assassination attempts. How the one attempt in Butler, PA, where he had blood on his ear and foot, is the same as Moses described for the process for ordaining the next high priest. This comes from Leviticus chapter 8, verse 23, and it reads, Moses slaughtered the ram and took some of its blood and put it on the lobe of Aaron's right ear, on the thumb of his right hand, and the big toe of his right foot. Now, if you look back at the pictures and video from July 13th, you'll see that President Trump turned his head just a split second before the shots were fired. Had his head remained in the same spot it was, there's a good chance he may not be here today. The bullet nicked his right ear, spilling out blood onto his right hand and even his feet. That's because the Secret Service agents hit him so hard that they knocked him out of his shoes. What happened to President Trump matches how Moses consecrated Aaron as the first high priest. This would be a standing command as long as the temple was in operation for the Israelites. You might be asking, why the ear, the thumb, and the toe? God was symbolically stating that when the new high priest took office, he was supposed to hear differently, work differently, and walk differently. The high priests, like the President of the United States, were called to be set apart, to operate from a higher realm, and to be more holy, just, and consecrated to God. What does that have to do with this presidential election? Does that mean President Trump is destined to win no matter what? Let's cover that in a few moments. I want to address some worries people might have when it comes to this hotly contested election. God wants you to hear this part. Stick around for it. This is the 60th election in the history of the United States, and the winner will become the 47th president of the United States. The U.S. has seen 2 world wars, survived a Great Depression and a Great Recession, smallpox, polio, and so much more in its storied history. The U.S. has recovered from multiple stock market crashes, real estate busts, and the dot-com bubble that was burst in the late 1900s and early 2000s. No matter what's happened in the election or in this economy, the U.S. continues to move forward and up. The U.S. does more than survive, it thrives. It's important to note that when President Biden was in office, that Roe v. Wade was overturned by the Supreme Court. Abortion was no longer a guaranteed right, and it allowed the states to decide what should be done based upon their individual constitutions and laws. We've also seen the economies can go up and down regardless of who's in office. During President Clinton's 8 years in office, there were large growth in jobs, stock market, and more. And the same could be said for most presidents regardless of the party. God wants you to know that you will be fine regardless of who's elected in office. While man stewards the earth, Jesus is still on the throne in heaven. So what does this mean for this election? Stick around to find out. These past 4 years has been incredibly hard on some people. We've seen wages regress dramatically upward to 30 and 50% going back to 2022 wages. We've seen hyperinflation where food prices jumped nearly 50%, higher costs. Interest rates went up from 2 to 3% to nearly 8%. And you can see that expenses and costs saw all-time highs. Unemployment's wages drew back. Many people that had dream jobs with remote work during the pandemic are now being forced back to the office or even to the city that their office is located. Otherwise, they'll lose their jobs. You might be thinking, how is this presidential election going to be different? How are you going to move forward with this upside down situation you're in? Many of you are struggling with making ends meet, living paycheck to paycheck, not to mention student loan or credit card debt. Will President Trump or Vice President Harris fix this situation for you? You might be wondering and thinking that this situation can never get any better, regardless of who's in office. Maybe there's some secret non-government organization really running the country, and whoever's in office is just a spokesperson or a talking head. I want to assure you today that that's not the case, because the truth brings you clarity on this situation. And Psalms 2 really has a strong word for situations like this. Why do the nations conspire and the peoples plot in vain? The kings of this earth rise up and the rulers band together against the Lord and against his anointed, saying, let's break their chains and throw off their shackles. The one enthroned in heaven laughs. The Lord scoffs at them. He rebukes them in his anger and terrifies them in his wrath, saying, I have installed my king on Zion, my holy mountain. I will proclaim the Lord's decree. He said to me, you are my son. Today I have become your father. Ask me, and I will make the nations your inheritance, the ends of the earth your possession. You will break them with an iron rod, and you will dash them to pieces like pottery. Therefore, you kings, be wise, be warned. You rulers of the earth, serve the Lord with fear and celebrate his rule with trembling. Kiss the Son, or he will be angry, and your way will lead to your destruction. For his wrath can flare up in a moment. Blessed all who take refuge in him. You see, Jesus didn't die on the cross for you to spend time worrying about things that are ultimately out of your control. While you do have to vote and you have a say in the election, there's so many aspects of this economy and in this world that you don't have a say in. Jesus said that he came to give you life and life abundantly. He came to heal you of your diseases, your wounds, sicknesses, and infirmities. He came to allow you to reclaim the promises he made to Adam for prosperity, finances, and more, and including dominion, power, and authority. Jesus died for your eternal salvation, for your sins to be washed away, for you to be spotless before the Father. This presidential election has taught me a valuable personal lesson. When I put my trust in Jesus, it doesn't matter what happens in the world. My finances are secure and they grow. My outlook on life is always filled with hope. My eternity is set. I won't touch or experience the flames of eternal damnation that many others will experience. My family is safe. My children have a bright future filled with great expectations that even they can't even imagine. God's plans are so much greater for you. Look at what it says in one of the most popular Bible verses, Jeremiah 29:11. It says, I know the plans I have for you, declares the Lord, plans to prosper you and not to harm you, plans to give you a hope and a future. Did you know that Jeremiah spoke those words after King Nebuchadnezzar sacked, destroyed, and carried off the remnant of the Jewish nation? They had millions of people in the country of Judah at that time. When Nebuchadnezzar was done, there were only thousands left, echoing what happened in World War II. The prophet Jeremiah was exclaiming a new day for the tribe of Judah. I'm here to exclaim a new day for the people of the United States. Let me share a powerful prophecy and then ultimate testimony for you to hang your faith upon. At the end of 2023, I lost my full-time job. I was the primary bread maker in my house. I quickly found out that in the job market, the economy and everything around that time was in total shambles. The millions of open jobs from 2022 had basically evaporated. The pendulum had swung the other way, where millions of people were completely out of work or looking for work. Salaries were rolled back to pre-2020 numbers. This was in the midst of rising food, gas, and interest rates, and it really sucked. I didn't find a full-time job until summer, and there aren't a lot of people that can have 8 months of income just stored away in the bank. And I knew God's promises were true, and I knew that as long as I pursued his kingdom and his righteousness, a la Matthew 6:33, Jesus would maintain my bills, my housing, my food, and my clothes. Not only did Jesus do that in that time, we grew an amazing ministry. My wife launched a book and hit #1 in 4 categories in Amazon, and so many other things happened during that time. My kids never missed a meal. Bills were paid. Jesus even got us an amazing clothing partner, so we literally walked out the very things that he promised in Matthew 6:33. Money literally came to us from everywhere. It was direct deposited into our checking account. Checks were mailed, monies dropped off on our front porch, and much more. The economy, no matter how bad or good it got under President Biden and Vice President Harris, didn't affect my family at all. We made a major move from the Northeast to the South about 3 years ago. We got plugged into an incredible church, grew to over 1 million social media followers and 50 million views. And all that happened in the last 4 years. And we grew dramatically as a family during that time. When you look at this presidential election, there could be a lot of heated emotions and thoughts that you might be carrying. The news, the media, and even political machines want to work people up. They want to draw them sides and pit them against one another. Jesus doesn't divide and conquer. He adds and multiplies. Everything he's done in my life and the lives that I've been around has been fully surrendered over to him, and it's all about growth, moving forward and upward. Jesus died for you to live an abundant life. And if you don't know him, I take this moment. This is so important to accept him into your heart right now. This will be the greatest decision of your life. He will smash the chains on your life. And if you believe there's more for you in this life, Jesus can give it to you right now. If you've already accepted him in your heart, take this as a chance to renew your faith in him. All you have to do is declare with your mouth, Jesus is Lord, and believe in your heart that God raised him from the dead, and you will be saved. That's it. Take a moment to do that right now. Comment, I am saved, when you do it. Again, all you have to say is Jesus is Lord with your mouth and believe in your heart that God raised him from the dead. Let the comment in the video below be a public proclamation of your new faith. You see, the power of answering the question of what happens if President Trump gets reelected or if Vice President Harris gets elected is this. In the end, Jesus is still on the throne. When you've committed your life to Jesus, put faith in his word, walk out his plan for your life, these questions don't need to be answered. That's the real power of prophecy. It's revelation. It's pulling Jesus's perfect future and bringing it into the present. It's answering the questions you didn't even know to ask. It's opening a way in the wilderness. It's making your path straight. You're loved. You're protected. Jesus will provide. He will deliver. He still heals today. He still redeems. He still guides. Your future is as bright as the shining midday sun. Your future has opportunity, open doors, and many graces. There's the forgiveness of sins. Your past gets to be buried. You are a new person in Jesus, and it doesn't matter what you did in your past. What's in front of you is incredible. God's got this. Jesus is there to walk this life out with you hand in hand. And you get to go from victory to victory, and you know you'll never be defeated. There's a reason in ancient Hebrew the word tragedy didn't exist, because the ancient Jews believed that God had the last say. And because he has the last say, he will fix your situation for his glory and your good, no matter how bleak it looks. Stand firm in your faith and watch the King of Kings and the Lord of Lords level every mountain in your way, raise up every valley, and make your paths perfectly straight. God's got this. Let's go. To support my ministry, Check out the link in the description below, and thank you for watching this video. God bless.